Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Welcome to Hong Kong Confidential. I'm Jules Hannaford and I'm your host. I'm an Australian woman and I've been living in Hong Kong for many years. I'm a mother, a teacher, an author, and I want to share my wisdom and the wisdom of others with you. Thanks for joining me and I hope you enjoy the show. Today I'm here with Virginia Chan. Hi, Virginia. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Virginia, tell me your background and a little bit about where you're from.
I am Canadian. I was born and raised in Canada, Vancouver to be exact. I like to say that my parts are from Hong Kong and then I was made and assembled in Canada. So my parents are from Hong Kong.
So your parents are both Chinese?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, great. Did you speak Chinese as a child?
Yeah, so I spoke Cantonese as a child, so I never really had to learn it per se. The only thing is my parents never corrected me. So there's certain things when I came over to Hong Kong, no one understood me, but because my parents understood me, they never corrected me. And then I had to relearn some phrases.
Oh,
instead.
How funny. Can you give me an example? Are you able to think of one?
So the bottom of your foot is ge ban dai, I think. I still can't get it. I say it the other right way. I say ge dai ban. And another thing is if you say, oh, something's really big, dai zan zhang. I go elephant, I go dai ban zhang.
Oh, okay.
Funny things like that.
That's so cute. Well, do they laugh at you?
Yeah, they think it's entertaining. So when I used to work in an office, the admin staff would be like, what?
That's so cool. How did you end up back in Hong Kong?
It's because I have a business degree and it was in HR. So I've always been in HR. I was working in Vancouver at a place called Arc'teryx. And it was an HR job, HR generalist, loved the job, but I wasn't so keen about Vancouver. I was, early 20s, mid 20s, and I had been really caught up in like the Sex and the City, the episodes. I really wanted that metropolitan or cosmopolitan lifestyle. And so for me, Vancouver was a little bit slow. So at that time, I was like, well, where else can I go? So I had kind of pinpoint New York, London, and Hong Kong.
3 biggest cities in the world.
Exactly. So I was like, well, I thought about it and I tried. New York was really hard because I was in HR and lots of times doors would be slammed in my face saying, I don't have the knowledge of the US labor laws and I only had Canadian labor laws. And so it'd be really hard for them to sponsor a visa for me. And then I thought about London and I know that people in London like other people to have kind of gone through the system, kind of had educated, born and raised, or had their education there. So I had considered doing an MBA there. And so I did my GMAT, the applications. One of the schools that I was like, okay about accepted me, but the one school that I really wanted, they rejected me. So that was that. And I was like, okay, well, what about Hong Kong? And I was like, oh, Hong Kong seems pretty cool. I can speak Cantonese, Mandarin, and English, so I would have a competitive advantage, or so I deemed. And I could use it as a travel hub and I can use it to learn a little bit more about my background, my mother tongue, my motherland, so to speak, and discover my Chinese roots. And I was like, okay, yeah, we can do that. And one actually really great thing about it is that because my parents are from Hong Kong, I have this thing called the right to land in Hong Kong, which meant that I didn't have to get a work visa. I could live here for as long as I want. I'm just not privy to any of the Hong Kong PR benefits.
Right. So permanent resident benefits for our listeners outside of Hong Kong.
Yeah. So I don't get the 4,000 Hong Kong dollars or the previous 6,000 Hong Kong dollars.
What's it been like then coming back and discovering your cultural heritage and your Chinese roots now that you're back in Hong Kong?
I didn't think that there would be a really big culture gap or culture shock. And in some point, it's true. And in some points, it's not. So because I used to work in more American banks, so the culture was very much like same as when I was working back in Vancouver. The only thing was I used to live in the New Territories with my grandparents when I first moved here. And I speak Chinglish. That's like my first language, right? And I just realized that I used English words for a lot of the really important like sentences.
That's super common though with Chinese people in Hong Kong. I see it all the time, especially the younger generation. They'll just throw in different words that are English into their sentences. So it's not that uncommon, is it?
Well, I just remember distinctively going into McDonald's and trying to order a latte, but with skim milk. And I said everything in Chinese except for skim milk. And then they're like, well, what is that? And I was like, I don't know.
You didn't know what skim milk was in Cantonese. That's funny.
So then I found like knowledge gap.
But then I guess they've closed the longer you've been here, yeah?
They've closed
How
now.
long have you been here?
I've been here for 6 years now.
Oh, okay. You came here to work in HR, but you left your job to start food tours. Tell me about that decision and when this happened and why.
So many different questions.
Yeah, sorry. Let me pile them all on top of you at once. You can do it. Come on.
So I think what it is my parents always told me that Vancouver was the best place to live in, but they had comparison. They had moved over from Hong Kong to Vancouver, but I had lived in Hong Kong all my life. So for me, I wanted to have a comparison as well. I wanted to go over to somewhere else to live to see if Vancouver indeed was the best place to live. Similarly, I had been in HR my entire life. And so I was like, well, is this the best job for me? Is this like the job that I really want? So I wanted to do something else. So I had been in HR for about 7 and 8 years. And the last position I was in was a really, really big established bank. And so all the policies, all the procedures, they were all already planned out. There was nothing sort of in terms of like a creative outlet. There was less of that. And so I wanted to come out and kind of just see what I could do in terms of being a little bit more creative.
And then how did you decide to do food tours in Hong Kong?
I didn't initially. So when I first moved to Hong Kong, I had started a blog about different like Hong Kong slang, different cultural things, like why men shouldn't wear green hats in Hong Kong.
Why shouldn't they? I didn't know that.
It's a Chinese proverb or a saying, which means that the guy is trying to tell other people that their spouse is cheating on them.
Oh, you're kidding me. That's brilliant. I didn't know that. I love it.
And the etymology or the origin of that is because back in the day, in one of the dynasties, the government wanted to shame the prostitutes. And so they made the men within their household wear green headscarves, and it's kind of evolved to what it is now. So I would share this on the blog. And so when I decided I wanted to do something a little bit more creative, I had thought about focusing on blogging and doing a lot more of that stuff. So kind of like Sassy Hong Kong, but on a smaller scale, so to speak, on a more personal level. But then I was a realist and I was like, well, that's not going to feed me and that's not really going to make money right off the bat. So what can I do that's sort of the main revenue stream very early on? And so I decided to want to do something that was in alignment with the blog. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I can give free walking tours to begin with. So for Humid with a Chance of Fishball tours, we started actually with a free walking tour.
Let's just stop there and look at the title of your tour company. It's so brilliant. It's called Humid with a Chance of Fishballs. How did you come up with that? I absolutely love it. That's super creative just in itself and must catch the eye of people looking at tours.
It's great for people, not so great for Google SEO, but I'm Canadian and we just like to talk about the weather all the time.
Yes. Brilliant.
And what we wanted to do was I wanted the name of the company to reflect the tone and personality of the tours. So I have not so fond memories of my history teacher in high school, and he was a very boring guy. And I wanted our tours to be nothing like that. And I wanted a name that could give you a chuckle and then think, oh, maybe they could be a really fun tour company and then join our tours.
Brilliant. So you blended your blog and walking tours. And how did that go? You got people walking around and you started telling them tidbits about Hong Kong, did you, on these tours?
Yeah. So the free walking tour is not really free. It's basically a very popular European model. And it's a pay what you want or a pay tip basis tour. So the idea is that you're going to bring them in and they're going to feel like there's no risk to us. If we don't like it, we could leave. But eventually at the end of the tour, after 3 hours, they'll like the tour guide so much that they will tip to what they think that tour was worth it for them.
And how did that go for you?
Oh, it was great. We got a lot of people, both tourists and expats. The only thing is, around the same time when I started, also we had 2 other free walking tours that started. And so that's very much a volume-based model. And so for us, we were like, oh, and I was thinking, well, what else can we do that's more specialized so it's less volume-based? You probably need 20 to 30 people at one go. And I was thinking, well, can we pare it down so maybe it's a more intimate experience, 8 to 12 people, and then specialize in a particular area? And I'm like, what is it that I really like to do? And I'm like, I like to eat. So there you go.
Great. And so then you started the food tours.
Yeah.
Tell me about the different types of food tours that you offer.
Well, first of all, we do small public group tours. So you can just join, if you're a single traveler or a solo traveler or a group, you can join a different group. And then we have the private tours, and then we have the corporate tours. So in terms of our offerings, our public tours, we have a dim sum one. So we go to the 1950s iconic tea house called Lin Heng Tea House. It's the crazy one where you have to like find your own seats, wash your own dishes, fight for your own food. It's super crazy. So it's best done with an actual local tour guide. And then we have another one where we eat seafood on a traditional sampan fishing boat. So it's a very iconic 60s to 70s experience. And then we have a walking tour in Whampoa. We put one in Whampoa because no one goes there, and it's actually where I live. And I think there's so much to offer in Whampoa. So that one is a deconstruction of Cantonese flavors. And then we walk around the neighborhood. And because we do it so often now, people even at the wet market, when they see us, they know we're not going to buy and we're just going to be talking about the different things around there, but they're still so welcoming. They'll be like, welcome, welcome, welcome to Hong Kong. They're so cute.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Yeah, and so the guests feel like they're part of the community because it's really residential. And that's the one that I really, really like.
So you go around and you look at little sort of iconic areas in the place where you live, and then you'll sit down and have lunch or dinner or something, will you? Or do you eat like along the way, stopping at different spots?
2 different ones. So one could be a guided meal, which is the dim sum and the seafood meal on the fishing boat. And then if it's a walking tour, they usually consist of 4 to 6 different food tasting stands. And so you're walking around, and then you go into different little food shops, like mom and pop shops that are only specific to that area. You hear their stories, and then you eat the food and understand the significance or history behind the food and why we eat it.
Fantastic. And so do you translate the stories from the Chinese people to the clients on the tour?
Yeah. So what will usually happen is I personally handpick all the different vendors. And then so I'll go in and I'll talk to them, and I want to hear about their stories and any interesting things that I might find. And then afterwards, I'll incorporate that into the tour in itself.
What a cool idea. Can you share a little snippet of one of the interesting stories of some of the vendors that you have on the trip?
Yeah, sure. So let's take the Whampoa Off the Eaten Path, for example.
See, that's a great name, Off the Eaten Path. That's great. So creative. I love it. Sorry, go on.
All right. So the particular one that we go to, the food vendor, it's our salty stand, so to speak. So it's like our salty flavored stand. And we go and try the 3 most common street foods there is in Hong Kong. So rice rolls, siu mai, which is fish dumpling, and then curry fish balls, because humid with a chance of fish balls.
Brilliant. Got to throw in the fish balls. Exactly. Excellent.
And what happens is you'll see an old granny and with her hubby, but next to her, you'll see one really tall mid-30s gentleman, and that's actually her son. So basically, she's raised 3 big boys on this one little snack shop, and they all have given her grandchildren now. So she just likes to direct and manage people. But right next to this shop is actually the public housing. So we'll actually usually go through the public housing first, see the area, go out, and then try the fish balls. And you'll see most people from the public housing go and visit this snack shop because they actually grew up hand in hand together, and they're really welcoming. And there's a lot of kids going there after school, and it's just a really nice environment.
Oh, how sweet. That sounds really cool. What a great kind of experience that really takes you into the tradition and culture of Chinese culture, doesn't it? It's not touristy. It's really real. It's grassroots.
Yeah. And there's a term for it that I'm always chasing after, and it's called 人情味, which is kind of the old Hong Kong kindness and neighborhood touch and feeling. And that's what I get. And that's why I want to go to the different neighborhoods that we go to feel that 人情味.
That's really lovely, because Chinese people are generally very warm, very kind, and very, non-aggressive and very sort of warm, aren't they? So it's really nice.
I feel like they are sometimes a little bit harder to get through, but once you're through, once you break through their facade, they're very welcoming.
Well, it can be, I think, a little bit harder if you can't speak the language. And then to have a guide with you that can help you connect through language, I think that's where the barrier can be broken down. Would you agree?
Exactly. That's one of our goals, is to be able to bridge that east-west bridge despite the language barrier.
So when I was looking at your website, I found it really funny. I thought that there was a lot of humor in the way that you write and the way that your website is presented. Is that something that you like to bring into your tours? Do you have your guests laughing and joking along with you? And is it quite fun and funny?
Well, it would come down to the different tour guides that we have. So generally, it's not just the humor, but we want to be seen as a knowledgeable tour guide, but at the same time, super laid back, super informal, super casual, and just having a great time. So we want you to learn great things, eat really delicious food, but at the same time, just have a good time and feel like your friend is showing you around.
Exactly. That's really nice. So you really see yourself as a girl boss. Tell me how important it is for women empowerment and for you to be running your own company and being a role model for other young women who think that they'd like to step out and become entrepreneurs and start their own company.
I call myself a girl boss because I always want to remind myself that I am the boss now. So I think one of the funny things about having been in the corporate world for a couple of years, or like 7 to 8 years, is that you're always looking for a sign off. If there's any decisions to be made, you actually have to get the buy-in and the sign off for a lot of different people. So I think one of the things that I had an issue with was always looking for validation. And I would always ask my friends on any single decision that I made. And as it's been 2 years now, I've gotten a lot better at being my own girl boss and reminding myself that I can do it. And so for me, women empowerment is so important because it's all about hearing success stories of other women that can do it. And it's about the sustainable development of the society, right? So half of the society are girls or are women. And we can do what it takes to be just as powerful and to be equal in all genders.
Here, here. We sure can. All the girls out there listening, don't you forget it. So what have you learned about yourself through this process of becoming the girl boss?
I think one of the things that I've learned is that the biggest person to undermine my own success is myself. So a lot of times when something really great happens to us, or we get a really great client, or we bid and we win for a really nice corporate event, it's always external factors. Oh, we just got lucky, or oh, right place, right time. But at the same time, reminding myself that girl boss and that I should own all the decisions. I should give myself more credit for what we're doing and the success that we get.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of women out there that undermine themselves and that they don't have the self-confidence or the self-belief that they really should have. And I guess that comes with success and age and experience. But it doesn't have to. You can really grab hold of it at a young age and run with it if you really believe in yourself, can't you? And it's just about self-belief, isn't it? And self-empowerment.
Yeah. And so recently I actually kind of learned of the term of what it's called. So it's called imposter syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Absolutely. We can all have imposter syndrome where we're doing something. Like a lot of podcasters, when they first start, feel like they've got imposter syndrome because they're not sure that they really got the chops to do what it takes to put great content out there and make a great podcast. But it really is about self-belief. So go on, what's your experience of imposter syndrome?
It's just maybe previously it was just, oh, right place, right time. We just got this because we were lucky. And so just being mindful and being aware that there is such thing out there, just being mindful of that is really good to remind ourselves constantly that we are girl bosses. Even if you don't own your company, you can be in your girl boss in your own role every single day.
Taking ownership of your own decisions and feeling proud of everything that you achieve. That's being a girl boss.
Yeah. So I actually have an example of that. So when I told my friends I wanted to name the company Humid with a Chance of Fishballs, none of them liked it. They thought maybe you should do something a little bit more professional, something that everybody would understand. And what I did was I actually registered the company first and then I told them later. So for me, it was learning about do what you want and then just own it and take responsibility for it.
Stand by your choices. Have confidence in your convictions. That's great. Good for you. That's awesome. Do you have any women in business as role models apart from Sex and the City girls? Is there anyone that you looked up to, have been inspired to through your journey?
Yeah, actually. So I think being an entrepreneur or like a small business owner can be quite lonely at times. And so I like to join different women leadership groups or networking events. And through that, I actually met Trish. You've actually interviewed her as well.
Yeah, Trisha, yeah. I can't remember the episode number, but it's called Redefining Success. And it's had loads of hits. Everyone loves her. She's great.
She is honestly really great. So she's really helped me in a lot of things. She's really inspired me to believe in myself. And so she's been a really great inspiration for me.
So was she a coach for you, or is she just somebody that you've become friends with and has inspired you? Because I know she does coaching.
It was through one of the mentor walks that we went on. And so she was there. I think it was like an hour of a walk. And then we kept in touch ever since. Sometimes when I have really big decisions to make, I'll shoot her a WhatsApp or an email. And she's always really welcoming and just really inspirational.
Yeah, she's amazing, isn't she? I love her.
So amazing.
I've got to ask you, what's her mentor walk?
It's put on by, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, by the Women's Foundation. It could be. And it's one of the mentor walks. And they have mentor walk maybe once a quarter, something to that effect. Yeah.
And so you go out with somebody like Trish, who is an amazing mentor, and you walk around and you chat about being successful. What do you do on a mentor walk?
Yeah. So they have mentees and then they have mentors. You show up and then all the mentors obviously have their own subject matter expertise. Then you voice your interest to whichever mentor you want to be. You get paired up and then you just walk for an hour or so.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I want to join. That's great. I'd love to do that. What a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
That'd be great to podcast, wouldn't it? Out on the road, record the mentor walk. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think if you just Google mentor walks Hong Kong, you'll find it.
What sort of people take your tours? Are they usually tourists? Are they locals? Are they expats? Or is it a real mix of all of that?
Well, definitely the first one would be tourists. So they either join the food tours or like a private tour. They're usually looking for something like travel authentically. We want to have something like travel like a local, so to speak. And so that's kind of our number one. The number two, especially at the beginning of the year, are usually the expats. They've made sort of a New Year's resolution to explore more of Hong Kong. And because a lot of our food tours are out on the dark side, so in Kowloon, which means that they want to explore more of that side. So they'll usually join the Wangpoa Off the Eaten Path tour, or we used to have a craft beer brewery tour. They'll join one of those tours. So we'll get expats. Locals, we get less of. And then another, third group would be corporations.
Oh yeah. Tell me about your corporate tours. How does that work?
They're tailor-made and personalized to you, but we have sort of three popular ones that they do. One would be an intro to Hong Kong foods, and it'll be 4 to 5 different food tasting stands within an area in Hong Kong. Another one would be, there's no food involved, but it's a history and culture 3-hour walking tour around Central. That's based on our old free walking tour. And then they can either add in a traditional dim sum lunch afterwards, or they can just have it as is with just the walk. And then the third one is a little bit more ambitious, but it's modeled after The Amazing Race. So different teams will go and they will try to do different tasks and challenges that usually involve trying to find a local that will help them on the street. And then afterwards, it's through the process that they get the team building.
That's great. So it's kind of a tour of Hong Kong in the Amazing Race style where you can develop corporate team building skills.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like go into the wet market and identify which one is choy sum and then get half a caddy of that and find out how many pounds is in a caddy.
Brilliant. Oh, fantastic. So what numbers can be involved in your corporate tours?
So usually if it's one of the walking tours, we can have 30 to 50 people. Usually we have about 30 to 40 people on those tours, similar to the walking tour. With Amazing Race, we've done it for maybe 10 to 15 people in the past. And then other personalized ones, such as one that we've done for a German company, we've done about 10 people and it was all based on exotic foods. So we did local craft beer, snake soup, Dai Pai Dong, eating outside. And then they ended with a helicopter ride to Macau.
Wow, how cool. So that was going to be my next question. If it's a private tour, you can tailor make it to what the people want, which sounds like that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, so any corporate tours or private tours, we tailor make them and they're bespoke experiences just for that group. I think one unusual one that comes to mind is like a 4-hour shopping tour. So literally shop till you drop.
Brilliant. Oh my God, that's so Hong Kong, isn't it? That's so Hong Kong. So you go to all the designer stores or do you go to really little random Chinese stores?
I first had to ask someone, like, if you're shopping for clothing, I know this might be a little bit more personal, but can you tell me your sizing? Because I'm like, people here aren't very tall and they're not, they only...
Yeah, I can't buy clothes in Hong Kong. No way. Only at Marks and Spencer. That's it.
So it was a mom and daughter and they were all very petite and slender. So we went and we did Causeway Bay. We did Island Beverly. So the daughter wanted to look for like Korean trends and we did that. And then we also went and hit up Ladies Market. And I think between the two, they bought up about 20, is it Goyard bags? It's the brand name bags.
Wow. They bought up 20 handbags.
Yes.
That's brilliant. So that's awesome. So have you had any requests that you can't do?
So we are only licensed to operate within Hong Kong. So a lot of people ask us to bring them to Macau, but we're not licensed to do that. So we usually then refer it to other tour guides that we know that do that.
Okay. So you've got connections in Macau that you can refer and you could start them here and do a tour here, chuck them on the ferry or the helicopter to Macau. For those people who are listening, it's only about, only 15 or 20 minutes by helicopter to Macau? And then it's an hour on the boat.
Yeah.
So it's quite close.
Or now you can also go by bus.
Oh, yeah, of course. The highway's finished.
Yeah.
So it's about, an hour by bus as well?
Yeah, also an hour.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, that's so cool. I want to do some of these tours. They sound amazing. What's the weirdest thing that you've been asked to do?
The weirdest thing.
Or the most unusual or unique?
We had a caterer I think she was based in California. And usually when it's a private food tour or any sort of food tour, we recommend 4 hours. I mean, no one can really eat all day long, right? But she was adamant that she wanted to see the new trends. She wanted inspiration. So she wanted the new, the old, the fusion, things that worked, things that didn't. And so we went on an 8-hour food tour.
With one client?
With one client.
Oh my gosh.
We lived through it. The only the funniest thing was she had to meet her friend afterwards and I was dropping her off. And then she got this text and her friend had surprised her with a really high-end omasake sushi chef's selection menu dinner right after the food tour. And the look of not horror, but just the look on her face was the funniest thing ever because after she's been eating for 8 hours, now she has to go for like a 3-hour omasake course.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how she managed. Did she ever let you know whether she could do it?
No
you didn't hear from her? That's amazing. Have you learned or discovered anything new about Hong Kong that you didn't know before you started the business? I suppose there's probably loads that you've discovered.
Yeah, for sure. I learn every single day because there's so many different questions that your clients might ask you. And we don't claim that we know everything about Hong Kong, but it is our journey into discovering more about our Chinese culture and heritage. And so it is this journey that we want to bring other guests onto and share the interesting or important bits. I think one of the things that I've really expanded my knowledge base on is the history and the significance of foods. An example of that was Humid with the Chance of Fishballs. Lots of people will ask you about what fishballs are. And so it actually acts as a really nice icebreaker. So that's one of the first things I had to learn was, what is the etymology or what is the history of fish balls and why do we have fish balls in Hong Kong?
And can you tell me?
Yeah.
Great. Tell me about it.
I think what happens is you should join one of my food tours.
Perfect. Good businesswoman.
And then I can tell you.
Okay, fine. That sounds absolutely brilliant. And all the people in the other 99 countries that listen to my podcast and are not in Hong Kong, you're going to have to come to Hong Kong and do a tour with a Humid and with a Chance of Fishballs to learn about fish balls. What have you learned about becoming an entrepreneur doing this? What have been the major challenges that you've faced apart from obviously owning it and being a girl boss that believes in herself?
It's just trusting in yourself. It's really honestly for me, it's just trusting my own instinct. I've been in the corporate world for the 7 or so years, and I think it's just believing that you have enough skills and knowledge to make your own decisions without having to ask your friends or family or whoever it is for any validation or opinions. Obviously, next month, we'll actually be launching 2 new tours, walking tours. One is going to be around Kowloon City. It's going to be retelling the history of Hong Kong through the different foods of the different ethnic communities that we have, like Xiu Zhao, Thai, Chinese, Islamic, Indonesian, etc. And the other one will be around Sam Shui Po. So we'll be actually just going through and eating all the classic must-eat Hong Kong foods in Hong Kong. And so obviously with such a big launch like that, I have asked my friends to look over the copywriting or the visuals or anything like that. Mostly day-to-day decisions such as that, I no longer need someone to sign it off or get buy-in from other people. I've learned to just own it.
And what I think you just said was really important is the trusting your instincts. We all have them and we often ignore them. And I think that's something that if we can learn to do, it makes confidence grow, it makes decision-making easier, and it really does make you actually believe in yourself more because you trust your instincts and things work out well, then you actually know you're on the right path.
But also, I think I'm guilty of being a ask-hole.
What's an ask-hole? Asking everybody.
So you ask everybody for their opinion, but you actually already know what you want. So after you ask for their opinion, you don't follow it. So instead of that, why didn't I just do it?
So that's like needing validation instead of just validating yourself, needing validation from others. And I think we all suffer from that in some way or another. Then again, I do feel it. The more confident you are, the less validation you need. So ask-hole. I've never heard of that. That's brilliant. I'm a bit of an ask-hole as well. I love the idea of the crab meal on the sampan. How did you come up with that idea and why did you choose crab?
So the idea comes from watching a lot of TVB dramas. Do you know TVB, the Hong Kong channel?
I do, but I never watched it. Yeah.
TVB, they do a lot of Cantonese dramas.
Okay. And what do you see in those Cantonese dramas?
So as being like a CBC Canadian born Chinese, we grow up watching it. There's actually a TVB channel in Vancouver.
Oh, I didn't know that. Right. So you watched these from being a little girl.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And they would just do a lot of, obviously in the 80s and the 90s, they do a lot of different experiences. And so when I moved over to Hong Kong, I wanted to do these experiences. One of them was eating on a sampan boat. I can't remember the drama, but it's with a lot of lawyers. And so they would eat on a sampan boat. So I wanted to go and do such an experience. So the Eat Typhoon Shelter Crab on a sampan boat is actually the last floating restaurant in Hong Kong. And I don't talk about Jumbo because Jumbo is actually basically a big building on the waters. This experience involves eating on actually a fishing boat out moored onto the typhoon shelter. So it's a really authentic, iconic 60s to 70s experience. We begin with a villain hitting ceremony.
What?
A villain hitting ceremony.
Villain hitting ceremony. What is that?
You probably have seen them before. They are old grannies that are based out underneath the Canal Road flyover in Causeway Bay. And you hear them slapping things and they have candles and some Taoist gods in front of them in a type of a shrine. And so what they do is they slap away the demons that you have. And so what we'll do is we will get one of our guests to volunteer to participate in the ceremony and everybody else can take videos or take photos, etc. And then I explain the significance of it. It's actually part of our intangible folklore heritage.
Oh, that sounds really cool. So you do the villain hitting ceremony
Yes.
on the sampan?
No.
On the wharf?
We begin actually in Times Square first. So it's near Times Square.
Oh, so you do it
on the ground.
Under the walkways. Okay.
Correct. And then we will take the ding ding, which is the tram. We call it the ding ding because it makes that sound when it nears the stop. And we will go on the trams because the trams started in 1904. So this is a really old school experience. We take the trams and then it will bring us to the typhoon shelter. Before that happens, we will go past Victoria Park. Victoria Park actually is our old typhoon shelter that we've reclaimed. And now we've pushed out the shelter, the typhoon shelter, to where it is currently.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so interesting. And then you hop on the sampan and you eat crab.
First, we actually have to find another old granny who drives a water sampan taxi. And then she will get us to where the floating restaurant sampans are. And then we'll be based there. It'll be anchored down to the typhoon shelter. And we'll eat the seafood meal there. And that will consist of prawns, clams and black bean sauce, razor clams, and that infamous typhoon shelter crab.
How cool. So are there actual sampans that are specifically for eating meals on in this typhoon shelter? Or is it just a regular sampan that you go and eat on and you've arranged to have the meal on it?
No, so it's an actual licensed restaurant and these sampans have to be licensed as within that specific category.
Oh, how fantastic. I had no idea. This is so exciting. I really want to come and do that one.
Yeah,
I'm going to. I really want to.
Sure.
That'd be a great idea for a party, wouldn't it? To have a little birthday party or something on the have that tour. That'd be great.
Yeah.
How many people can go on the sampan meal? I'm planning my next.
Maximum 12 on one sampan.
Good to know. That sounds
and you
great.
have to keep it balanced. We have to get their nod of approval to make sure it's balanced or else there's
so you can't have like 7?
What I mean by that is you can't have, last time, the first couple of times we did it, we had a party that was 3 big German gentlemen and then 3 really petite women. And so the boat kept moving. And so they had to come over and tell us that we had to switch spots.
Oh, I see. So you've got to have everybody seated sort of by weight so it's all balanced.
It has to be balanced.
That's so cool. I love it. How has your life changed by moving from the corporate world into this startup world or this world of entrepreneurship?
I think it's same, but different. I still work the same long hours, but what I feel like now is I feel like I can make a bigger impact to the company. So whatever I do, whatever decisions I make will directly impact our bottom line, or whatever things I don't do will also directly impact our bottom line. And so I feel like there's more of a creative outlet, and just being girl boss, I can make my own decisions. I don't need a sign off or buy-in or anything like that.
And would you say that you're happier in this world than the corporate world?
Yes, I think I'm happier, but I think it's because I also really, really love what I do. So even though I put in really long hours, but I feel like it's just so fun. Like I just take great joy in meeting the different clients and the different opportunities that come along with that. So for me, it's almost like it's not work. It's just like a passion project of mine. But on the flip side, obviously we have to think about financial stability as well and making sure that we're building out a model that makes revenue at the end to be able to sustain my dreams, right?
That's the part that worries people with taking that leap quite often, isn't
Yes,
it?
correct.
You know, and that can be the thing that holds a lot of people back. Do you think it's true that a business has to be prepared to sort of run at a loss for the first year, or do you think that's not necessarily true? This is kind of like a myth that I've heard along the way in my travels. Do you think that's true?
I think for the most part that you need to make sure that you have enough cash flow. In order for you to be successful, I feel like you need to prepare for the worst, is it? And then hope for the best.
Yeah, that's a good motto.
You know, if you've prepared that, oh, we're totally going to make a profit the first year. What happens if you don't have enough funds for it? Then there's nothing you can do. But if you prepare for that, then you've already know what your worst situation is and you've prepared for that.
What advice would you give to anybody who's listening to this podcast and thinking, right, I'm going to leave my boring or mundane or, you know, Groundhog Day job and start something that's my passion and my dream and begin a business? What advice would you give to them?
So this is definitely learning from my own mistakes. It's before you leave your job, you probably need to plan it out a little bit more carefully and make sure you have a strong business plan. So one of the things is I don't actually believe in a business plan. However, I believe that the process of planning one is the most important thing ever. And
isn't that contradictory?
Well, no. The thing about a business plan is most people do it and then they never go back to it. So they never look at their success and then go back to what they've put on paper. And also a lot of things here are very fast moving. So a lot of things might have changed. So if you ever don't go back to your business plan and reflect on that, then it's just moot, right? But the thing is, the process of planning your business plan, you're going to find out that, oh, your marketing strategy doesn't work with your target audience, or this doesn't work with the pricing. Because if you target backpackers and it's $100, it doesn't work. So the planning process, I think it's really good because you have to think through everything.
Yeah. Did you not do that as well as you could have in the beginning, or did you not get advice or business sort of support?
Well, for me, what it was I didn't realize that you had to be licensed as a tour guide in Hong Kong. So for the first year, I had to go and get licensed. And then after your license, you actually have to have a tour agency license. So I had to do all of that actual nitty gritty logistical licensing items before I could really hit the ground running.
And you'd already left your job. Whereas in actual fact, maybe you should have done that before you left your job.
Correct. I should probably have studied, gotten my tour guiding license, had all of that stuff, gotten a business registration, everything like that before I left my job.
Right. How long has your company been running now?
2.5 years now.
Oh, great. Congratulations.
Thank
and do
you
feel like it's just growing in success?
I think in retrospect, yes. But at the moment in time, I think, there's always more things that you can do. It could grow at a faster rate and all of the things. I think I'm now at a crossroads where I am the only full-time employee and we need to scale because I really can't do everything at the same time now. There's just too many pots and I can't focus my attention on one thing. So I think this point seeing how we can scale or else there will be no growth.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure you'll manage that super well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So look, it sounds absolutely amazing. And I'm really, really interested. And I hope that you get a lot of people out there listening who are really keen to come on board and check out some of your tours because they sound fantastic. Like they really sound amazing. They sound so unique, so creative, so interesting, and so like intrinsically Chinese. And you wouldn't just get that in a run-of-the-mill like red bus tour around the city. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very different to those sort of, what would you call them? Like
cookie cutter,
cookie cutter tour companies that are just sort of going through the motions and not really giving you the underground, deeper meaning and experience that you can get through knowing a part of the culture and the area like you do. Yeah. So that's super cool.
That's exactly why we have the name that we have, which is Humid with a Chance of Fishballs. We definitely want to be really different from the conventional model. Ours is very small. We only bring about 8 to 12 people on any given food tour. And it's definitely not just giving you the dates and the history and the facts, but we want to give you the stuff that you can't find in your tour guidebook. And that's why we go to Whampoa. That's why we're going to Kowloon City. That's why we're going to Sam Shui Po. Because there's so much more culture that you can't find on the internet. And the places that we go to, Google won't have it. It's not going to be the top ranked. We go to these places that have a lot of stories that we can tell. So you're going to eat great food, but you're going to hear great stories because the tour guides will be able to speak Cantonese. And so you can see the interactions between the tour guide and the vendors, and you'll be part of that community. So we, once again, always want to bridge that east-west gap by trying to bridge it with us and despite your language barrier, so to speak.
Fantastic. It sounds so wonderful. Congratulations. And I really wish you all the best for growing your business and getting more and more customers. Just sounds fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
Virginia,
having us.
I would really like you to tell my listeners how can they find you and get in touch with you if they'd like to do one of your tours or have a tour tailor-made for them, their corporation or their little private group.
Yeah, so our website, and I know it's a little bit long, but it's Humid, Humid, with a Chance of Fishballs. Fish, Fish, balls, BALLS.com. And for our Instagram, because Humid with a Chance of Fishballs is too long, Our Instagram handle is I Like Fishballs.
Brilliant.
And then you can also check us up on Facebook as well for Humid with a Chance of Fishballs.
Great. Well, good luck with all. And thank you so much for coming to talk to me today. And I definitely want to check out one of your tours and bring some of my friends along. And I think it sounds like a really great opportunity and a great night out. Even though I've been here for 18 years, many of the things that you talk about, I've never done.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'd absolutely love to do something. So thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me. It's been super interesting. And I hope that you get some people to come on your tours based on this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll see you on the Sampan tour.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. For my listeners out there, if you feel like this has been a topic that is really interesting or that you know somebody that might like to join one of Virginia's tours, please can you share this podcast with them? And if you can go onto iTunes and rate and review us, that will help move this podcast up the iTunes charts. And ultimately, it's going to help Virginia get more customers. And don't forget, just eat great food and enjoy Hong Kong and get in touch with Virginia if you're here. Thanks again, Virginia. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much.
So that brings us to the end of another Hong Kong Confidential podcast. I'm Jules Hannaford. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me again next week. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please can you go to iTunes to rate and review it? I would really appreciate your feedback. You can email me at jules@hongkongconfidential.net, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Hong Kong Confidential. If you'd like to hit me up on Twitter, it's at Jules Hannaford. I would love to hear from you.
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.